Hey guys, so this little tutorial, I think we're just going to play around with really basic Grasshopper initial startups and then play with multi-pipe for sub D and try to make a cool looking structure, I guess. So let's jump right in and go into perspective mode. Type in Grasshopper really quick. I'm going to use a polygon. That'll give us more a poly surface that we can start to work with. Let's see here, polygon. Let's give it a few sides. Start with 8 for now. I'm going to give it a little bit more dimension. Okay. Then from here, we're going to make kind of a tower structure. So type in move. We're going to move it in a series in the z direction. So we need to give it a vector, unit z. Okay. We'll type in series. Give it a count of like 15 for now. Maybe 5 increments in the z direction. So that looks pretty good for now. Then we're going to rotate them. Here, we'll change it from radians to degrees. Type in series. Plug it into there. Okay. Let's type in 15 again because we'll be able to limit how far it's rotating. I'm going to type in 55 for the actual rotation increments. Okay. And we can limit that. And from here, let's type in loft. Okay, so you can start to see where we're limiting the rotation. So if we were to bring that up, it would go higher, obviously. We could kind of lower that so it's not too crazy. Or we can leave it higher, too. It's up to you guys. Okay. Something like that looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to hide that for now. All right. I kind of want the top to sprawl out. So let's type in scale. We're going to have an area. So let's type in area to get the centroid. We'll type in a series. We could probably just use some of the rotate one. Type in 1 period. We'll need a 1 for the start. Factor. That looks a little bit too wicked. Tone that down just a bit there. I just want it kind of at the top. So what I want to do is mess with this just a bit. We might have to change the start number. So leaving the bottom as they are. That's not what we're looking for. Start off with that, I guess, and then have to limit how far it goes up. Okay, so we're at 7 there. Reverse this list. Reverse the geometry. That's not it. Just this list, maybe. There we go. So reverse the factor, reverse the list as it initially gets there, so it kind of confuses the scale. There we go. That's that nice, almost like crown area that comes up. We can mess with how far it goes up or down. I think something like that looks pretty good for the most part. Kind of happy with that. Then from here, all I'm going to do is type in deconstruct brep, bases, and we'll go over our lunchbox command. They have a structure panel. Let's try out space structure 1. Just so there's no points in here, I'm just going to type in curve, put it in lines A, line B, and web. I'm going to hide the space truss so there's no points. We can start to see what we're doing. I'm going to hide all this as well. Okay, and let's mess with our UVs. Keep those relatively high. I imagine the V will leave it down at like 2. So we can start to see geometry. And then if we go over to our surface tab, multi-pipe for Rhino 7, this would be our sub Ds. Give it a moment. That's looking connected. I don't think we have to flatten it out. Connected to me. Let's give it a dimension for our node size. That's a little bit too big. Bring that a little bit. Good. What's this bake out like? so it looks pretty good down at the bottom. Might have to mess with the UVs, I guess, a little bit. Maybe we'll take out every other one too. Try that. So let's type in dispatch. Lower this down so we get a little bit more dynamic look and feel to this. Go higher now. Yeah, lower is better maybe. Let's increase how many side or segments are in this polysurface. Let's play with the rotation. One thing I might do real quick is just put in a custom preview. Custom preview. Go over to Arctic. See what we're kind of seeing in render viewport without baking. That's looking pretty cool. Let's start to just mess with rotation. Rotation at the bottom potentially. It's pretty cool. Scale. Okay, what about our count? Lower. 7 seemed alright. Maybe in there. It's looking pretty good. Okay. Let's play with the node size one more time. There we go. Get it almost like marshmallow looking. Okay. And then again on the segments, maybe we add a few more. So 20 maybe, where we're like 15. Something like that. Could look pretty cool. Kind of chunky looking. Higher we go, looks pretty cool. Scale, I almost wanted to just go out further. Something about like that. What happens if we take out lines A? Lines B? Cool. We're a little bit better. I kind of like it. And then if we increase stuff, what happens? Definitely more detail down at the base, which is pretty interesting. Something like this is going to look cool. I'm going to play with, again, just the number of sides. If we bring it just a hair lower, so you can see some of the detail. Base there. That's looking nice. And then from here, all I want to do is let's offset our loft that we had. Sorry for the noise out the window. The cops are busy today, apparently. Offset about 5. We'll put in a negative number there. Just like so. It's pretty good. Excellent. And then I'm going to mesh this out. We're going to contour it. I don't know, 5. All this. This will give it a little bit of architectural spirit. Surfaces, see what you start to get. Pretty good. So if we bake all this stuff out, what's that look like? Cool. I wonder if we do kind of a random split list. Get into here. Let's hide some stuff so it's not so standardize in there. There we go. That might look a little bit better. There we go. So I'm thinking there's going to be planting on the inside. Okay, again, let's play with our rotate. Now let's bring it up higher. Too far. Too far, folks. Let's wait for it. What happens if we reverse the list for the rotation? So let's reverse this rotate. Okay. What if we undo this one? There we go. This could be really interesting. I kind of like this quite a bit more. Down the actual number of rotations to like 4 on our count. So it'll be just at the top for the most part. Size. Bring it down a little bit so you can see what's going on. Maybe bring it up again. Geometry's getting a little bit distorted, but that's all right. Let's bring down the just a hair. You have to go up just to make the multi-pipe work properly. Plug in lines B. Did I get better? A little bit better. I don't know, that's looking pretty cool. What about our depth? If we bring that out further for the space truss, so that really messes up the geometry quite a bit. Okay, so that's relatively too high. Negative. Default's better. Leave it as it was. And I wonder if we mess with the segments one more time. Maybe 10. Think for a second. Did not go. 10. It's looking quite interesting. Get some really kind of crazy geometry up there. That's fine. Let's bring this lower maybe, or higher, so it comes down further. Let's bring down the rotation so it's not messing up our geometry as much as it is. It's lower. Bring up the node size one more time. Yeah, that's pretty interesting right there. So let's go ahead and make the environment for it. I'm just going to bake out the surfaces. One thing I might do is just copy these. I'm going to extrude them down just so they have, I guess, depth. Okay, this will be one of the materials. So that'll be our concrete, just say. This is going to be a leaf layer, so we get some kind of greenery happening within our materials. I'm just going to change that to, I don't know, mulch for now. Just make sure everything's going. Okay, perfect. Okay, and over here we can just bake out this. Change this to another material. The new stuff, I might just scale it in Rhino real quick, just in the X and the Y, so it gets outside those floor plates a little bit more. And then these floor plates down at the bottom, just going to delete them out. Ooh, that didn't work out like I thought. Let's just delete out these maybe. And the ones that are really intersecting. So something like that. I think this will be our nice overall model. I'm just going to unlock these, select our sub Ds. We'll just call those bronze for now. Okay, let's copy and paste them a little bit everywhere. Maybe back here, rotate around. Something, this looks pretty simple for the most part. Okay, let's give them a little bit more height, scale them in the Z direction. Okay, and then we'll just make our landscape now. I'm just going to walk down the models we just created, explode out the bounding box that we just did. Okay, I'm going to go to shaded, try to capture a majority of these. And these are going to be, let's just make them like really tall underneath the tree canopy. So our landscape would be relatively simple. So I'm just going to type in rebuild surface. Let's do 125, 125. Turn our points on one more time. Okay, bring out our brush select tool, make some hillsides. Like I said, it's going to be an easy landscape this round. So something like that. Smooth the heck out of it. Bring this all the way up. There we go. This will be our grass. And we'll unlock our model. We'll head over to Lumion. All right, so we brought it over to Lumion, just kind of switching out some materials. I think through this part, using wild grass, since the scale took too long, so I just used 2D grass. Scaled up the actual texture map of it. And then we're just adding some different materials to the overall structure there. Just some nice stone to go throughout the space there. We're changing that mulchy area to leaves, so we get some kind of greenery starting to happen through there. Okay, and then for this particular one, I'm using cluster trees. So I'm basically just trying to find the right size, and I think I ended up scaling them down. Yeah, you can see it there. Basically, I'm just kind of making different fingers of almost timber kind of running through the space there. So a lot of population of clusters. If you guys made it this far in the video, please watch it all the way through. I still need quite a few more minutes on YouTube to actually even get any further. So please like, subscribe, and if you have the video running in the background, that'd be great, just to add up the overall minutes to my profile there. But anyway, yeah, we're just adding different clusters throughout the different scene here. Relatively quick. Second, and then I think we're going to start adding actual 3D trees to these structures, just to give it a little bit of variety. And plus the 3D trees in Lumion look much better than the clusters. Clusters are basically just 2D cutouts that are arrayed across from each other, so they give a nice impression for like foreground and background, but not the best for actual 3D shadows and all that. So I'm just sitting here populating a little bit. A little later I add even more trees in. Now through this part I'm just kind of finding where I want the camera to be. Do I want it lower or higher? You'll see I go through a lot of different lighting. I think this is more of a moodier scene, so you'll see at the end like it kind of darkens up quite a bit. I'm adding the 2-point perspective just to give it a little bit of an architectural touch, saving the camera. Adding in a bunch of fog just to kind of hide and blend out the background. And through here, kind of managing the camera, bringing up the focal length so we get a little bit more variety of the landscape through here. And you'll notice here, I think I'm going to start messing with just the skies and the sun kind of settings throughout the entirety of here. And quite a few different just test renderings happening. Of course, playing with the fog. So with the fog setting, it gets a little tricky, especially if you're using real skies in Lumion. It'll either kind of really darken stuff out or make it so you can't even see your actual model. So be a little bit cautious on how you run that. And of course, the sun can start to highlight some areas as well. And here I'm just messing with some skies. So as you can see here, the fog gets really, really dense. So obviously not good for a nice composition for your rendering. So again, just kind of playing around more with skies. Always seems to be the biggest issue for me, especially just trying to pick out the nice, variety of lighting plus the vegetation to kind of roll through the space and make it semi-cohesive of a rendering. And here I'm just filling out the background, like I said before, just with more tree clusters. They're not very heavy, so your computer doesn't slow down necessarily. And then, of course, add some birds. I think these are swans in this particular rendering, quite large. And then for here, again, just testing out some stuff. I think I do some materials switching, as well as some other kind of just finite details. On one more time, trying to get just that lighting perfect within the scene. I brought it higher just so we can get some nice highlights on the overall model. Okay, just adjusting some materials there. Seem to be a little bit dark. Through here, I think I'm starting to get the lighting just about perfect, at least in my eyes. A lot of testing. Of course, the fog's kind of rolling through, bringing up the fall off. Went with a moody sky, so we're just running through a bunch of different options. I know I went with a really, really moody sky later on. There we go. So the overall, rendering kind of turned out a little bit kind of darker, which is, in my preferred eyes, I think it's a little bit better, just because you can always go to Photoshop and lighten it up. So if you go too bright, sometimes the highlights get lost, like on a rendering. So typically I will go a lot darker than what is needed. You'll see here just adding trees at different scales throughout the space there. Just one little adjustment from sun, trying to get some nice highlights through there. We're almost at the final rendering, just kind of doing, again, little fine-line adjustments with the camera, pulling it in, pulling it out. Save that out, do one last test rendering, and I believe we hit the render button. We're pretty much set for Photoshop after that. Let it run. Then as for Photoshop, like I explained before, we ran a little bit darker than usual, so I'm just testing kind of the auto colors through here. And then eventually I think I just go over to brightness contrast, do it a little bit manually. And then basically we're trying to blend kind of a nice composition between light and dark throughout this image. So kind of darken some areas out, delete some using the eraser tool. Then we end up flattening it. And then again highlighting the green areas throughout the space there. And then we start to mess with these levels a little bit easier, just adjusting the opacity, flattening, trying it over and over again. Flatten it out, obviously do a little bit of vignetting as kind of a trademark, and that pretty much sums it up. So if you guys made it this far, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll be back here soon. And please like, subscribe, and comment. So thank you so much, and I will be talking with you very soon. Bye.